Our guiding document is House Bill 280, which you have had access to or should have a copy of. And the members of this study committee are myself, our Attorney General, Lynn Fitch, or her designee, Chairman of the House Judiciary Aid Committee, that is Representative Cockerham, Madam Chairman, Senate Judiciary Aid Committee, Senator Bryce Wiggins. We have Chairman of the House Agriculture Committee, Chairman Bill Pigott, Senate Agriculture Committee, Chairman Chuck Younger. One person to be appointed by the governor, Mr. Hall. Will you tell us a little bit about yourself? Welcome here today.
Thank you. Glad to be here. David Hall from Meridian, Mississippi. Third generation landowner in the timber business. Originally started out the sawmill side of things and just swapped to the land ownership side back in the 60s. My grandfather did. So been involved in Mississippi Forest Association and other groups like that for most of my life.
Great. Welcome. We look forward to serving with you on this. One person appointed by the Lieutenant Governor, Ms. Meredith Allen. Would you say a few words? Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Meredith Allen from Greenwood. I grew up farming, so I've been in agriculture all my life. Spent 43 years in the cotton marketing business, retired as CEO of Staple Cotton 5 years ago. I'm still chairman of a trade association of the 4 major U.S. co-ops that market cotton across the country, and happy to be here.
Thank you. We're glad that you're here. Look forward to working with you. And then one person to be appointed by the Speaker of the House, and that is Mr. Ted Kendall. Ted, would you introduce yourself, say a few words?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. Ted Kendall, 5th generation row crop and beef cattle farmer and landowner from Western Hines County. Glad to be here with you all.
Great, thank you. As I mentioned, House Bill 280 is our guiding document. The primary author of this bill originally is with us today, Representative Becky Curry, Becky over there, and also Stacy Wilkes, one of the co-authors. Several other authors, Representative Stamps and Crawford, Scoggins, and Brown, and Williamson, and Arnold, who couldn't be here, but I thank y'all for taking this initiative. It's important. This is an important issue. It's a big issue, and our job, my job, is not to be a legislator. I've been there and done that. Our job is to collect facts and information, and this bill says that by December the 1st, we are to submit a report of our findings to the legislature so that our legislators can take the ball and run with it and pass whatever bill they deem fit. It's a big issue because food security is national security. I was in a meeting with Farm Bureau the other day, and that was discussed about the pending federal farm bill. Everybody understands America is strong because of our food production capability, and not only feeding ourselves, but feeding people around the world. As a matter of fact, 1 out of every 3 acres of production in Mississippi are destined for international markets. So the international trade is involved in this. So it's a big deal. Over 20 states have already passed laws about this issue of foreign purchase of farmland. I want to thank the legislature for having the wisdom to pass this study committee so that we didn't have some sort of knee-jerk reaction that would adversely affect our farmers or adversely affect our international trade or some unintentional consequences. Other states have made missteps, and I think next month, if you come, you'll get to hear some of those mistakes that other states have made, and we can learn from those. So it's wisdom to study this. We have from today, August 24th, until December the 1st to study this, to collect facts and information, and by December 1 to submit that to the legislature. There are, naturally, anytime you're looking at legislation, there are factors in tension. One of those factors is our national security. A lot of discussion has been on the news and the press about foreign actors coming in, buying farmland, and a lot of, there's a lot of interest among the people of the state of Mississippi in this. I hear from them, and they're concerned about it. So that is an issue. National security, our state security as food production. Also, we have to balance that with private property rights. Individual farmers own land. They've had farms for years and years. And we live in a country where private property has value, and people need the right to and have the right to use their property and to sell it as they see fit. So those are two factors you mentioned, and I already mentioned a third factor, and that is international trade. Now, I'm in the business as your commissioner of international trade. I travel the world and talk to folks around the world who want to buy our products and we want to sell them our products. And so it's important that we get this right, knowing that 1/3 of our production is destined for international markets. If foreign countries are owning that land and owning that production, we have nothing to sell them at that point. We need to consider all these things and make sure we get it right and hopefully bring the best ideas. Let's go to the first slide, and I'm just going to lay the background. All I want to do here today is tell you what our task is, what facts that we know today, and then we'll open it for discussion and we will elect the chairman at that time. House Bill 280 created this study committee for the purpose of studying the purchasing, acquiring, leasing, or holding of an interest in agricultural land by foreign governments. That is the purpose of our study. And the next slide. The legislation has several specific issues that they want us to consider. Total amount of agricultural land under foreign ownership. I'm going to tell you that today as best as we know that information. Percentage change in foreign ownership of agricultural land in the last 10 years. Current use of foreign-owned agricultural land, including recent changes or trends. The extent or changes in foreign ownership of water rights in Mississippi, water desalination facilities in Mississippi, energy production, storage, distribution facilities in Mississippi. The next slide. Our department, MDAC's assessment of the impact of recent changes on foreign ownership on our water rights and food security. There it is, food security. Current prohibitions on foreign ownership of Mississippi land and why those prohibitions are not enforced. We're going to talk about that briefly today. And then we must do all this and make that report on or before December 1. And we have the option to make recommendations of legislative, policy, or administrative changes. Well, knowing that House Bill 280 is our Constitution, let's start with our state Constitution. What does it say? Our Constitution, the state of Mississippi, Constitution Article 4, Section 84, that I think was first, this is out of the 1890 Constitution, states, the legislature shall enact laws to limit, restrict, or prevent the acquiring or holding of land in the state by non-resident aliens, and may limit or restrict the acquiring or holding of lands by corporations. That was done so long ago, and here today, that has never been the subject of any court case or interpretation as to what that means, except, the next slide, as it pertains to the law that's in place. The legislature, years ago, in I think 1892, passed the first laws governing this issue of non-resident aliens' ownership of land. Now, I want to mention the phrase non-resident alien is not defined in either the Constitution nor the law. So that is not defined. But as we look through this, I'm going to summarize this. You can look at the full law in Section 89(1)(23). And it provides that resident aliens may acquire and hold land and may dispose of it and transmit it by descent as the citizens of the state may. It also provides that any person who by marriage becomes an alien may do the same thing, own and inherit. But it specifically says, and I'm holding a copy of the law right here, it says, except as otherwise provided in this section, non-resident aliens shall not hereafter acquire or hold land, but a non-resident alien may have or take a lien on land to secure debt at any sale thereof to enforce payment of the debt and purchase the same, hold it not longer than 20 years with full power during the time to sell it. He may retain it by becoming a citizen within that time. So there is a general prohibition on non-resident aliens, whatever that means, holding, owning land, subject to the exception stated in 89(1)(23). The legislature, at a time when we had a large number of folks moving to Mississippi to work in agriculture, specifically folks from Syria and the Lebanese Republic back in the 1870s, were moving to Mississippi to work in the Delta. So many of them are still great citizens of the state, great farmers, workers. But the legislature specifically stated that non-resident aliens who are citizens of Syria or the Lebanese Republic may inherit property from citizens or residents of the state of Mississippi. So that is in the law. And then there is this statement in the law, 89-123, that non-resident aliens may acquire and hold not to exceed 320 acres of land for the purpose of industrial development thereon. That's the law today. Non-resident aliens may acquire and hold not to exceed 5 acres of land for residential purpose. So you see the laws as they exist today in the state statute and in our Constitution contemplate some restriction on non-resident aliens owning land. There have been a few court cases under that provision, 89-123. I'm going to mention just a couple. One of them, in 1975, it was ruled that a treaty between the United States and, in that case, the nation of Honduras, under the supremacy clause of the United States, trumped the state law. So Article 6, Clause 2 of the United States Constitution, the supremacy clause says that the Constitution, laws passed by Congress, and it says, and all treaties made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land. So if there is a treaty that has been in place between the United States and a foreign nation, our Fifth Circuit ruled that that treaty actually trumps the state law because of the federal Constitution. There's another case or two that I'll mention. It talks about that common law excluded aliens from inheriting from citizens, and that is sort of reflected in this law. And then there are cases that do say that non-resident aliens did, as the law provided, have the right to hold property for the purpose of securing a debt. So those cases have been reported from as early as 1910 to 1916 and 1975. I got a copy of that here. Let's talk about the treaties. Yeah, we're there. I've already mentioned Article 6, Clause 2 of the Constitution, which governs treaties. And one example that is important to Mississippi, you'll understand why in just a minute. In 1957, the United States entered into a treaty of mutual friendship with the Netherlands. This was after World War II. And under that treaty, the folks in the Netherlands had the right to acquire land in the United States, and Americans have the reciprocal right to acquire lands in the Netherlands. That is a factor you should know. In 1975, when Gerald Ford was president, he signed Executive Order number 11858. It has been amended and updated a number of times over the years, as recently as last September by President Biden. The Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States is an agency committee that is designed under the Defense Production Act of 1950 to review transactions, foreign investments, and certain real estate transactions to make sure those transactions don't affect the national security of the United States. Those executive orders don't speak to or limit agricultural lands, but you should be aware of it. Now there is, on the next slide, as I mentioned, federal law doesn't have any restrictions on the amount of private U.S. farmland that can be foreign owned. There are a lot of pieces of legislation in Congress right now working to pass some. And if Congress were to pass something, it would obviously preempt our state law. But right now there are none. But there is something, and this is where a lot of our information comes from. Under the Agricultural Foreign Investment Disclosure Act of 1978, AFIDA, which is administered by USDA, it established a nationwide system for collecting information about the foreign ownership of U.S. ag land, and that is defined as land is used for forestry production, farming, ranching, or timber production. So it includes what we're talking about. And we have a great representation here of forestry interests, cotton and also row crop interest. And then it actually does define foreign persons, and here's how they look at it. USDA looks to see is it an individual, corporation, company, association, partnership, society, joint stock company, trust, real estate, or other trust, estate, or other legal entity, including a foreign government, with a principal place of business outside the United States. So once a year, USDA publishes a list of holdings that they know to be controlled by foreign countries, foreign investments, foreign interests. We have already collected that data, and if you go to the next slide, we have a whole lot more data than this. But as of December 31, 2021, 777,176 acres of Mississippi land are reported to be held by foreign interests. That's a total of 2.6% of our land mass in the state of Mississippi. Notwithstanding our constitutional provisions, notwithstanding the law already on the books, 89-123. And then out of that, a total of, according to USDA, 757,816 agricultural acres are foreign interests or held by foreign interests. That's 2.5% of our land. We have that data. USDA has published that data by county and by nation. In Mississippi, I already talked about that treaty, so it shouldn't come as a surprise that Netherlands, or maybe it is a big surprise, they own this much, but the Netherlands hold agricultural and non-agricultural holdings of some 357,582 acres. That's according to USDA today. The next largest holder of lands is Germany, which holds 60,352 acres of agricultural and non-agricultural land. And then China, as far as we know, as far as USDA knows today, it owns some 88 acres of agricultural lands. Now, we had a report from USDA at a conference I attended a while back, and my staff attended, and USDA admits that they don't have the resources, nor the people on the ground to go and look at all the land records and peel back who really does own what. For example, you can have a local domestic Mississippi LLC that's formed in Mississippi with Mississippi ownership, but ultimately behind that is a foreign entity controlling it. USDA doesn't peel that layer back. They go back a few layers, but not far enough to know of lands, for example, held by LLCs in Mississippi, what percentage is foreign control. If you go to the Secretary of State site, what you will find, as I reviewed it, is we have hundreds of foreign-controlled LLCs, corporations, companies, and partnerships that have been registered to do business in this state for some purpose. But as I mentioned, USDA doesn't have the capacity to go to every single county chancellor clerk office where our land records are kept and peel back all those layers. Next slide. So when I found out that y'all were passing the study committee, I wanted to get some legal advice. So I appreciate Whitney Lipscomb, Whitney, on behalf of the Attorney General, thank you for helping us get to these answers. And thank you, General Fish, for her help. I wanted to know the answer to this question based on what we knew about how much acreage was held by foreign interests. I asked the question to our state Attorney General, based on those restrictions in the law, is the transfer of title and land to any single foreign investor in excess of 320 acres null and void? And we already got an answer. Back in May, next slide, I'll show you this. We have an official opinion. I brought a copy of it here. You're welcome to look at it. I think it's online. And the Attorney General's office did a great job going through kind of the history of it and the exception for 320 acres up to 320 acres for industrial development. And if you go to the next slide, there. The second half of that page there really is the guts of this opinion. There are three things that the Attorney General told us, so we already have these things settled as we go forward. Number one, as shown, she talks about the treaties. Treaties control, a valid treaty between the United States and any nation is going to control that issue, no matter what our state law says. Treaties are going to control because that's a constitutional supremacy clause issue. Secondly, and I'm going to read this. We note that although non-resident alien is not defined by statute, the language of 89-123 implies that the term only applies to individuals. So the Attorney General's office, looking at this in the context of the Constitution and the law, there is an indication, an argument to be made that the non-resident alien language only applies to individual people, non-resident aliens. Further, the statute explicitly provides that the 320-acre industrial development limitation shall not apply to corporations in which the stock thereof is partially or wholly owned by non-resident aliens. So there's allowance for industrial development even if non-resident aliens own the stock of that corporation. And finally, regarding the consequence, which was my question, if we found all these lands held by foreign interests that weren't subject to a treaty, where I was going with this, are they null and void? And the answer is that the statute does not provide that, but rather it states that all land held or acquired contrary to this section shall escheat to the state. So the result, if we do in the course of our research find that some land has been acquired by some foreign country that we don't have a treaty with in excess of that, the result of it would be to escheat to the state of Mississippi. So that's the findings I want to bring to you that will hopefully help frame the discussion as we move ahead. And I want to, at this time, open it up to the floor, especially all of our great members, our certain legislators who have passed this law. We want to do what y'all intend for us to do. I'll open it up for committee discussion at this time. Anyone like to speak on it or ask questions about it? Don't see any. All right, so we have some business to do, to attend to. The legislation provides that we are to elect a chairman and a vice chairman and any other officers that we deem necessary. So we have before us the organizational meeting to elect the chairman, vice chairman. It's up to the committee, but I definitely think we need a secretary for this committee to keep notes such as that. So do we have discussion nominations on the subject of chairman at this time?
I nominate Andy Commissioner as the chairman.
Well, thank you for that.
I'll second that.
Thank you, guys. All right. There's been a nomination. Are there any other nominations? All right. All in favor of that, I guess say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Thank y'all. I promise to work with you, and I promise each one of you will have an equal voice in this committee as we move ahead. We need a vice chairman. Are there nominations, recommendations for a vice chairman in my absence?
I nominate Representative Bill Haggett, the chair of the House Agriculture Committee.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Any other nomination? I don't see any. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Thank you. Congratulations, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman Haggett. What about a secretary? Who would like to serve? Who would you nominate?
What about Chairman Andrew Cochran now?
All right. Well, Madam Chairman, congratulations. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. All right, great. So we have elected the chairman, vice chairman, secretary. Are there any other officers that I'm overlooking that we might want to put in place at this time? I don't hear any. By the way, Senator Seymour, I didn't mean to overlook you. Thank you for being here today. We definitely want comment and input from everybody, from all of our farmers, all of our industry groups. We want to hear from our legislators. We want to hear from the people of Mississippi. So what we have done today, we made public a landing page, a website. We're calling it the Farmland foreign ownership for farmland, foreign purchase of farmland landing page. It's at mdac.ms.gov/farmland. And we're gonna put these proceedings there, we're gonna put the presentation I just gave you up there, we're gonna put whatever comments that y'all wanna put in the record up there. And then to make it easy, because we only have a little time, we basically have time to have this meeting, a meeting in September, October, and then a final meeting in November. We have created a dedicated email that will collect public comments from anybody out there who has an interest in this. I have a philosophy, it's always a good idea to hear from people. It's always a good idea to listen to people, especially people affected by this issue. So that email address is farmland@mdac.ms.gov. And anybody who's here today that would like to submit comments, you can do that starting today. We will collect them. I will make them available as we receive them to this committee. And then at the end of the meeting, at the end of the committee, we will assemble all of them and submit all of them to the legislature as part of the report. Is there any other discussion or question the committee has about this before we start looking at next meetings? Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Can you provide the slides you had earlier to us?
Yes, sir. We're gonna send that, we're gonna send everything that you just received in an email to you at the address we have on file. If you have another email address you'd like it to go to, just shoot me an email and tell me where you'd like it to go. And we will get it to you. There is a group, and we work very closely with them in the agricultural world, the National Agricultural Law Center. Harrison Bidman there is a great expert on a lot of issues nationwide. And we have confirmed he is available on September 27th. If y'all would like to meet again September 27th, what he's talked about doing is coming here, talking about the issue, and then giving us an overview of what all these other states have done and his opinion about what they did right, what they didn't do right, etc. So that's one possible date, and then we were looking maybe at October 18th or 19th, and then maybe perhaps November 9th. Those are dates that were good for me. Did any of those present a problem for any of y'all? Okay. Well then, can I get a motion that we approve those dates? There is a motion by Whitney. I'll second.
Commissioner, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm trying to, I may have a conflict on that.
Which one?
September 27th. I'm trying to look it up.
Okay. We'll hold on till you get that. What about October 18th or 19th? Take your time, take your time. We want everybody to be here who can. And I guess, do we have the capability to do a call-in thing? What do you call it, Zoom? Yeah, Zoom. We do? Yeah. All right, we're good. So we can't, that is an option for us. Our IT folks tell us.
I'm okay then, sorry.
Okay, great. So again, next meeting will be September 27th, same place, same time, October 18th or 19th, November 9th. Anybody else got an issue with any of that? Okay. Well, we'll pick one of those October dates. If we have a motion to approve these, is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, say no. All right, great. That'll give us plenty of time after that last meeting to assemble whatever information that we have. Are there any other discussion points or questions? And I'm going to thank Chairman Wiggins. I know he already had a committee meeting set at the same time. Thank you for making the effort to be here and participate. We want everybody to be a part. We'll keep you updated. And any other word from anybody on the committee? Any legislators that would like to say anything before we conclude? Okay. The email address is Farmland. Yeah, Mr.
You know, it looks like to me, Commissioner, that we've got laws in place and we're just not enforcing them.
Bingo.
Okay.
You got it. I mean, that's what I hope y'all will take away from this. We have the laws. We need some definitions, kind of like the USDA has. And we need somebody who will enforce it and who will be able that not only have to have the authority to enforce it, but the capacity to enforce it. Because ultimately, all these land records are being filed at the Chancery Court level. 82 counties in Mississippi have the land records. Somebody don't have to watch it. And there's got to be a process to do that. That doesn't create a burden for some agency, doesn't create a burden for our farmers or landowners that are trying just to do a real estate transaction. That's the sort of thing we have to vouch for. At the same time as we look out for the interests of Mississippi food security, national security, we can do that. We just got to do a little cleanup work on this law, in my opinion.
Mr. Chairman, may I say something?
Mr. Pettit, yeah, with the committee's approval, yes, you may. Does anyone on the committee object to Mr. Bubba Pettit?
We have a law.
We have a law.
Section 1139, or 3911, I think it is, 1139, 1 and 3, provide the obligation of the Attorney General of the state of Mississippi. If the Attorney General doesn't do it, then district attorneys can do it. But they have to be paid something. So the legislature will have to come up with something. If the Attorney General will do it, to pay the person.
All right, what's that code section again?
I think it's 39, 11, 1, 39, 11, 3.
Okay.
It may be 11, 39, we get my age.
Well, we'll get it full and we'll have it at our next meeting. How about that? We'll talk about it.
Very specific.
Yeah.
It's under quote warning though. It's the name.
Full warning.
Quote
Okay.
warning.
Okay. All right, well, definitely, your point's well taken. It's gonna be a big undertaking to enforce it. It's gonna cost some money to do it. Thank you for that.
I can answer that if you want to listen to it.
Go right ahead, you got the floor.
The statute is very specific. It is speaks to the state of Mississippi. So, and I know there is a concern that some of our friends, the Dutch, the Germans, whatever, lose their land. But all of that land has been, their title insurance of all of that land. And what other states, what Harrison Pittman is going to take, some of these states, through the Attorney General, the VAs, or whatever, they can file these suits, but to be covered by title insurance, any decent man, all you know, and it's law on the book, so I don't feel real sorry for anybody. If they not get a lawyer to check the title, that's what really wrong. I'm not that sympathetic. I don't think the landowners are really going to lose any money.
Okay. Thank you for that. Appreciate you. Appreciate you being here today. Yes, Madam Chair.
Mr. Chairman, Dewan Johnson, who's House Counsel, tells me that the statute is 1139-1.
So the statute is 11-39-1. Thank you, Juan. Thank you, counsel. You gonna be our counsel on this committee? Thank you. All right. Any other discussion about the committee? Well, I want to say thank you for participating. It's an important issue. It's a big issue. It's a big topic of discussion. We don't need to lead with our emotions on this. We need to get the facts and then do the right thing for the state and our people. I appreciate y'all being a part of it. We'll look forward to seeing you at the September 27th meeting with the National Ag Law Center. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second, all in favor of adjourn. Amen. Thank y'all.
That's right.